everyone, how's it going? And welcome to Community Conversations. My name is Liz from the DFINITY Foundation. So Community Conversations is an opportunity for you, the community, to hear from contributors within the internet computer ecosystem, as well as ask them questions live. So last year, DFINITY announced the Community Awards program to support creators and builders who are engaging within our ecosystem. This dedicated grant program focuses more specifically on internet computer community growth and development. So this talk is going to go over basics for the Community Awards program, as well as some tips for nailing down your funding benchmark, milestone setting, and general do's and don'ts for writing an application. We have our Director of Community, Michael Hunt, Community Manager, Julia Guizzardi, Head of Audience, Anna Escher, and Product Marketing Manager, Maddie Broner, here to give a talk. So I'm going to hand things over to Michael now.
Thank you, Liz, and thanks everyone for joining us today. I also wanted to thank, all of the speakers and teammates over here at DFINITY that are joining in for this conversation today. One of the things that, really excites me about a lot of the work that's happening inside the foundation at this moment in time is the collective mindset around community building and community engagement. We really do believe that, for us to be successful as an ecosystem, there has to be combined efforts from multiple areas within the organization, not just the core community team to support the ecosystem. So we're starting to see, this really come to fruition in a huge variety of ways from members of, yes, community and comms and marketing, but also from members of R&D and engineering. We think about all the different types of community management and engagement that we can support with a program like this. So I'm very excited to chat about it. As Liz mentioned, the Community Awards program was launched last year, back in November. This was something that we've been wanting to do for quite some time. And realistically, just a few months after launch, we thought it was a really, really great opportunity to do so. As some of you in the community may have been following and noticed, we launched the Developer Awards program, pretty much right around the time of network launch. And since then, we've had a number of really wonderful applicants come through and a lot of really meaningful projects being built. From my perspective, I've always really wanted to extend that kind of an opportunity to just general members of the community because in addition to building applications and documentation and infrastructure and tooling and all of these wonderful things that will eventually, come together to make our ecosystem great and, a place where people can really build meaningful projects. I saw, an opportunity for us to do something similar on the ecosystem side and evangelism side. And, the Community Awards program pretty much was started with a very simple question. It was just, how do we, encourage and enable and incentivize, the people in our ecosystem who are interested in building, but not just products, but building ecosystems and community to do just that. So ultimately, we really wanted to create a program that would give members of our community and ecosystem that are interested in building out different programs and resources and projects that were aimed at, getting the word out about the internet computer and beyond getting the word out, providing members of our ecosystem with a place where they can learn and connect with others in the community, giving them these opportunities. It made a lot of sense for us to move forward with this direction. So over the course of the talk today, we're going to be chatting about quite a lot from, how you can get started with applying to the program, some do's and don'ts. We'll give you some highlights of some of the projects that we've, funded thus far. We'll chat a little bit more about, what comes next and how you can continue to get involved even beyond just applying and working on something yourself. But with that, I think I will kick it over to, I believe, Julia, who will start chatting a little bit, or actually, excuse me, I believe it's Tia's next, who will chat a little bit more about, some of the work that's been happening from the dev program and how that kind of compares to the work that we are doing here with the Community Awards program.
Amazing. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. And Liz, thanks for the intro. And also just big thank you to everybody here for attending. It's great to always have an opportunity to kind of connect with everyone and also share the work that we've been doing here at the foundation. So one of the things that we wanted to go through is kind of the differences between our more well-known developer grant program and this kind of, subsidiary, if you will, the Community Awards program that has derived from the success of that developer grant. So I shared the links here in the chat earlier, but for those of you that aren't following along, DFINITY.org/grants is where you can access the grant program, and DFINITY.org/community is where you can access the Community Awards program. And you can see that, at this date, there's well over 150 grantees that have been funded through the developer grant program. And these are wide-ranging variations of different types of dApps, decentralized applications, DeFi projects, that includes DEXs, swaps, whatever it may be, or different protocol layer things such as token level protocols, as well as teams that are building novel types of NFTs. So on the Internet Computer, we've been able to see NFTs that are more than just a JPEG, and that includes everything from NFTs where the avatars themselves can be used in games, or the NFT itself is a game, right? So there's a lot of really interesting things that are being built there, and the developer grant program has been great in enabling a lot of these developer teams to build out and scale their dreams and also get support from a developer side. So on the Community Awards program, we wanted to ensure that a lot of the ecosystem projects that are building out community as well are able to get both access to the team here at DFINITY to help support and enable with both our mindshare, but also enable and support activities to scale these efforts to a much greater audience. So one of the things that we do want to articulate that is that teams that have applied to, been accepted, and gone through the developer grant program, we highly encourage to apply to the Community Awards program. And if you are here listening today, we hope to give you a better understanding of what are the things to look for and what are the types of activities that we choose that we can enable to scale through this program. So a lot of the activities that we're looking at when it comes to the Community Awards program is focus areas around different categories, and these categories have to enable different projects that can build ecosystem, build community, but also we really want to prioritize projects that are self-sustaining, right? So thinking about ideas that are able to come to the program, receive access, and then be able to kind of scale themselves sufficiently through the communities that they've enabled and built. And there's a wide array of ways to do that, and we'll cover those throughout this chat. But the different categories that we focus on for the Community Awards program are artists, and that's support for like digital art, physical art, and other types of creative projects, right? We can get into more details on do's and don'ts for some of these categories as well. But I think it's really, we would love to see how different artists are able to build and enable community and using the motifs and the activities that are in the Internet Computer and the ecosystem that we see at large. Another key area is organizers. So that's channel administrations, community managers, developer evangelism, community content that really helps and builds these types of activities. And then there's marketing. So any types of guerrilla activations, event support. If you see, hey, I'm regional person and I can see all these events that I think the Internet Computer should be at, and I'd like to be a part of that. There's also avenues for that type of activity. Additionally, there's events. So hackathons, regional meetups, workshops, and the like, but also educational content. So course development, also organizing clubs, working at your university or universities in the area and helping to educate on both development, building the Internet Computer, but also how to use the protocol at both a user level. So that's using the different decentralized applications that are maybe more decentralized or have better activities when it comes to censorship, privacy, or whatever it might be that is useful for your kind of region. And then again, the final category is editorial. So journalism, blogging, and other multimedia storytelling. So being able to kind of move forward. So yeah, I think I might have stolen a little bit of thunder of some of the next category, but I'll hand this off to Julia to kind of continue on and as well give a teaser on some of the existing projects. So.
Thank you, Matthias. And yeah, I'm really happy to be here. I'm also a little bit nervous because it's my first time talking on and with the community on a call, on a public call. So if you see me like stuttering or being a little bit nervous, that's why. And thank you, Matthias, for introducing already a lot of the verticals that actually the Community Award program is focusing on. There's a lot of different things you can actually apply for, and you can actually look at and to talk about the Internet Computer and to share your passion and your enthusiasm about the Internet Computer with the world. I would say like many of the verticals already Matthias have underlined them, but I would add a little bit about education. We think that education is one of the pillars also that could be really important for you if you're really like if you feel sure, if you developed something on the internet computer, or if you feel like you understand the core of the internet computer, maybe it's a good idea for you to think about how to educate the community on that as well. I think that's one of the key roles that one of our community members can have, and we are more than happy to accept, interact with projects that believe in education, that live in the university campus, but also other type of HubSpot and institution that can have an educational type of outlook. I would also like to give a little bit of a sneak peek behind the curtain. Actually, we're working already on some projects. I will share with you some of the numbers a little bit later on the call, but just to give you a peek behind the curtains, actually, we have a project that is working, that it's a mix between a hackathon and a Coding Bootcamp right now, a project that it's ready to empower the community through education and networking, a project for Spanish speakers and thought about Spanish speakers, and we want to see more of these coming from different regions. We're talking about a project to converge efforts and community building in one place, and a project to empower Asian students in the IC environment. So we are happy to hear about a lot more projects in the future, but now I leave the word to Matthias again, that is gonna talk a little bit about how to nail your funding request.
Amazing. Thank you, Julia. Again, warm welcome, both in the chat and here in person. Welcome to the team. So again, just to quickly dive into funding requests and how to kind of structure your community awards application. When you're looking at putting together a request, the way that we are looking at it on our end, which makes it easier for us to approve, is everything is in a set of milestones. And these are 3 milestones that break up to create your project, right? And so when you're looking at milestones 1, 2, and 3, the way that you want to think about this is, what is the full term of your project? Is it 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, or a year, or whatever it might be, depending on what the scale of your project and your scope is. And then you want to break out your funding request, whether it's, you know, a $5,000 request, 10,000, 15, whatever it might be, 50,000, depending on the size of the scope. Break that down into milestones 1, 2, and 3, noting that the first milestone will be the smallest amount, and as it will be given out upfront if the full project is approved. And then milestones 2 and 3 are then to be dispersed upon completion. And also there are budgeting requests that will go into that. So we will talk about that in just a moment. But when you're looking at how to kind of create this budget itself, right? You want to ensure that this first disbursement is enabling to power these community activities, right? This isn't for work that has already been done in the ecosystem that you would like to be paid for. This isn't for time spent doing an activity, right? This is for scaling a project or scaling an organization or scaling a community effort to more people within and outside of the existing internet computer ecosystem. So if you're looking at kind of how you want to budget out this request, you want to ensure that, one, there is a clear focus as to what is this project. Is this applying under one specific category? And also, how does this budget break down, right? Is this funding for marketing for Adapt to get to more users? Is this the ability to, you know, be within newsletters that are, you know, enabling for people to, you know, find your educational materials on the right places, right? Is it to be able to put a course online on a digital platform that costs funding to do so, right? The more that your request has budgets behind it, and the more that your request is really focused around how is this going to enable more people to learn how to use and or build on the internet computer, or use your project that you've already built and scaled, that gives a novel benefit to the community, then that's something that you'd want to kind of break out. So again, looking at the milestones, there's 3 milestones that make up your project. You want to ensure that they're budgeted out, and they're also kind of focused on timelines that align with what it is that your core project is focused around. And again, we're looking at projects that do continue to scale themselves upon completion. We don't intend to have these be projects that are dependent on, you know, community awards program funding to be able to succeed in perpetuity. We want to ensure that these are scalable projects that are able to build community that can then self-support in some way. So there's a lot of examples on how that can be done, but we'll get into that a bit later. Next slide. And yeah, how do you crush these, right? The thing is really looking at how you kind of want to ensure that these are prioritizing Web3 projects that are native ideas that are really taking advantage of the internet computer protocol, right? There's there's a lot of different projects in and across the blockchain ecosystem that seem to be mimics and copycats of different things that already exist, either in Web 2 or simple, repetitive, but just lower cost versions of newer Web 3 projects. But what we're looking for is, things that really do enable this vision of Web 3, right? Removing this kind of archaic centralized middleman and really looking at distributed services from top to bottom that interoperate with different types of ecosystems, both whether it's within the internet computer or ideally branching out into other Web3 ecosystems, into other Web2 ecosystems that can enable us to really build the future that we're all want to see, right? We're all invested in this ecosystem because we do want to create the new technology. We want to remove the middleman that's making the money off of nothing. We want to ensure that we're actually getting value back to people and creating peer-to-peer networks that are scaling, right? So that's what we're here to support and enable. That's why we're all here working day and night to kind of make this dream happen, no matter what is going on kind of across the ecosystem. But again, the whole focus is, what are these ideas that are going to build out the future, and how do we enable those to kind of get off the ground? That's what this program is for. So if you can kind of think through, all right, this idea I have, this is a bit more revolutionary than just a JPEG. We can use NFTs to do, this amazing thing like ticketing, et cetera. But what if we just had the ability to get it in front of more people? We already have the development, but like, how do we make sure that more people can see it? That's something that we want to see, right? And we want to help use our expertise internally and externally to help build out these dreams and just kind of get them off the ground and let them go. So I'll kind of leave it at that. I know there's a lot to cover here, but yeah, thanks. Appreciate it.
Cool. Hey, everyone, it's Anna. Just wanted to say it's been awesome talking to the grantees who have already applied and gotten through the interview process. It's super inspiring to see what you've come up with and the different ways that you're leveraging the internet computer to build different products, but also create community. So, I mean, if you've tuned into this call, you know how many awesome things are taking place in the internet computer ecosystem. We just saw Sonic launch its DeFi protocol and the first DEX on the internet computer last week. District recently launched its mobile app on the App Store, which was really cool to see. The Bored Ape Yacht Club lead artist Seneca, whose new collection was minted on Ethereum and hosted on the IC, just had her profile written up by Rolling Stone magazine. Not to mention some of the highlights from 2021. We saw Tonic Labs report $12 million in marketplace volume and 300,000 NFTs minted. And so these numbers are really only growing, and that's just to name a few. And so wanted to point out that there's a huge opportunity around content coming out of the internet computer ecosystem that we think can be leveraged on Web 2 social channels that already have these huge daily active user counts and audiences. So we'd really love to see like newsletters, podcasting, video and short form written editorial content like blogging that helps, tell these stories around the internet computer ecosystem and all of these exciting proprietary news items that are coming out from entrepreneurs and teams that are building on the IC. So yeah, I can hop into some of the do's and don'ts for the application. So I can start with the don'ts. Here are a few things to avoid. We've seen some teams apply for more than one grant, and we want to keep, your team's application to just one application. It's just easier operationally for all sides. Yeah, I think also on the note of content, we don't want to view the grants as funding for a one-off piece of content. The community grants are really intended to support projects that grow into self-sustaining communities over, a period of months or longer. So in that sense, it's great to see content come in as part of a series or repeatable, just something repeatable that can be posted on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, rather than just a one-off project or one-off piece of content. Yeah, I think don't envision the community grants as funding for like payment for hourly work. I know that's how a lot of like artists and freelancers are used to managing like their budgets, but we want to see this as like a large sum for a longer term project rather than payment for hourly work. I think, don't view grant funding as a means to launch your personal brand unrelated to the internet computer. I think a lot of creators are producing content about Web3 at large. But these grants for the purpose of this program are really meant to support the internet computer ecosystem. That's not to say you can't, produce content about Web3, but these are specifically about the IC. I think another important note is to not apply for the grants with the intention of hiring people. The funds are not really intended for salarial purposes or payrolls. And then, one last note about the don'ts is that we know a lot of people in the community have been involved in the internet computer ecosystem for a number of years, but we don't really want to view the grant funding as a source to retroactively apply to your previous work. The community grants are intended to support new projects. On that note, a few things that we do encourage are assigning a team lead who's going to be responsible for budgeting, for interfacing with the DFINITY team, and being hands-on with your milestone tracking. I think, something we have already gone through, but a good reminder is, check out the flagship developer grants program to see which program is most aligned with your project. The dev grants focus is really on more of the technical side of developer tooling, infrastructure, integrations, and canister development kits. Whereas the Community Grants Awards program is, really focused on what we've gone through already, like education, community organizing, managing content channels, and this physical creative art. And then again, do think long-term. Tell us how your project will become self-sustaining beyond the grants. And then, nail down your price point. Get specific about how you'll use the grant funding to support your project. So tell us how exactly will you use the funds? What will the funding go toward? Is it editing software? Is it, whatever you need to charge for this? And then, I think, really nail down your milestones. Think hard about how long each phase is going to take you realistically. And then I think also a good thing to say is we love to see these projects that have already started working towards their milestones and have this ongoing track record or traction. So, make sure you tell us what you've done so far and why you need the grant funding to sustain the work needed to achieve the next milestone. So I think we can go to the next slide.
We'll leave it here. I think Mike wanted to add something on this.
Yeah, while we were on this topic, I just wanted to, pause for a moment and chat a little bit about the application process. I know there are a number of familiar faces already inside the chat and watching today who have already gone through this process, but I wanted to try and demystify this a little bit because I think it's all fine and well for us to share more information about the program, but I wanted to make sure that as people are joining us today and listening in, or maybe for people who are watching this in the future, and don't have the ability to ask questions in real time, they too also get a chance to just learn a little bit more about the process. So simply put, you can get started by going over to DFINITY.org/community, and that's where you can start the process for applying for a community award. As Anna was mentioning a little bit earlier, when you get to that submit that page where you're going to fill out your application, we do ask that all teams, select, a lead applicant. You can apply as an individual or as a team. It really kind of just depends on, what the nature of your project is and, kind of the vertical that you're going after. For example, if someone is interested in, applying to be, an internet computer ambassador, which, would have a focus on, organizing events, attending events, and, really trying to find yourself in places where you can share more about the internet computer ecosystem and the different projects and the technology here, then of course it might make more sense for you to apply as an individual. But perhaps, if you're working on developing digital community, and we're seeing many really great digital communities come through and apply for this program. Well, the expectation is you probably do have a team of people that are working with you, but again, you're going to want to select that one lead applicant to, again, be the person who will be interfacing with the DFINITY Foundation, the person who will be reporting a bit more on your progress and your milestones. And of course, the person who will be kind of in charge of facilitating the distribution of funds for the project. So the application is pretty straightforward, all things considered. And I just wanted to draw special attention to this idea of outcomes and milestones, which you'll see referenced during the application process. For the outcomes of your project, of course, we really want you to focus on your overall vision and what it is that you believe that you can bring to the internet computer ecosystem and bring to the table. But I also want to remind individuals out there that are interested in applying for the program that your outcomes should really be focused on how you can provide value for the ecosystem and provide value to those who are interested in learning more about the internet computer, or even go a step beyond that and find ways to bring new people into the fold who probably have some alignment with the internet computer ecosystem, even if they don't recognize it quite yet. So when it comes to setting up those outcomes and sharing that vision statement, it really is a benefit to figure out, well, not only how do I achieve some of the basics that I've set out to achieve, but how do I get the word out about the work that I'm doing? So to the extent that it helps to think about this through the lens of, say, a distribution mechanism, I would encourage people to think about this. And it could be as simple as, writing blog posts, perhaps participating in podcasts. There's a number of really wonderful podcasts that are popping up within the internet computer ecosystem that are always looking to share a little bit more about the work people are doing. Of course, leveraging social media to the extent that you can. And also maybe even taking a look at collaborations and partnerships or sponsorships. And on that note, I know we've mentioned a couple of times today that we are absolutely really excited about projects that, if not are capable to become self-sustaining in a short period of time, but have some initial thinking about how they become self-sustaining. I encourage people to, think about this by utilizing a blend of perhaps of some existing models that we've seen work already, but as well as, think ahead and look ahead to some of the new exciting models that are appearing very quickly as it relates to all things Web3. And of course, we're chatting a little bit more about models like, engage to earn and play to earn and some of these different areas. But it could also be as simple as taking a look at, well, if I'm running events, maybe I do figure out a way to effectively, sell tickets or work with sponsors or work with partners. And of course, you can do that in ways that feel unique and feel authentic to our space and our industry. But I imagine that, for some, these models might be a really good way to think about how you can become self-sustaining down the line without wrapping your brain too deeply about, how exactly you're going to make that work. So back to the application process. After your application has been submitted, it goes through an initial review process here with different members of our team that are sitting on the community grants side. If your application passes that initial review stage, you will receive an email requesting that you book time for an interview with one of the members of the Community Awards review team. For that interview, you can either join, just yourself if it is a team of one. But if you would like to invite a few other members of your team, if you are applying for a project that does have a couple of people participating, do feel free to coordinate and have multiple people join in for that interview. And during that interview, essentially, the goal is to come to alignment on the outcomes and the milestones which your project will be tracked against. So once that interview process is complete, you should be able to walk away with a general sense of, well, is my application likely to be accepted? Yes or no? If it is likely to be accepted, how much funding am I likely to receive? In some cases, that funding amount may be the exact amount that you requested during your application process. In some cases, it may be a little bit different, sometimes lower, sometimes higher. In fact, I always get very excited when it's higher. Sometimes I receive or review really exciting proposals, and I see a lot of value in raising the actual grant amount, noting that I just personally believe that to accomplish the goals that this person has set out to accomplish, they likely will need more funding than they originally thought. Once you have kind of gone through that application process or that interview process, excuse me, and your grant has been accepted, applicants will then receive an invite probably within the next anywhere between a day to 7 days. It really just depends on how many applications are actively in the funnel. You'll receive an invitation to essentially conduct the KYC process. And during that process, you do a simple KYC as well as in a secure manner share the ICP address that you would like to have on record. And that is where your disbursements will be released. So as Matthias had mentioned, for the Community Awards program, we do 3 disbursements. The first one is actually done relatively upfront. It's received just a few days after your application has been accepted. The next 2 distributions are essentially based off of the milestones that were agreed upon during your interview. And to figure out whether or not your milestones have been met, we ask that actually each team does a very simple set of activities as it relates to tracking their progress. One of the things that I'm very excited about with this program is that instead of focusing too heavily on whether or not the exact metrics have been met or the exact milestones have been completed, we really want to focus on proof of effort in some ways. And we really just want to see that, individuals and teams are really making the effort and working towards the milestones and the objectives and outcomes that they, agreed to at the beginning of this process. So if we can see that, work is happening, and if we can see that, the effort is being put in, we're more than happy to continue releasing the funds as aligned with the initial engagement. Of course, we are all living in a time period where, things are happening, and sometimes not everything kind of pans out exactly as planned, but, as long as that effort is there and we're seeing that traction, we're more than happy to continue moving forward. So I think that is about it for what I just wanted to add just around the application process. And I believe from there, I believe Julia and myself, we wanted to chat a little bit about what happens after you've been accepted to the Community Awards program. Julia, would you like to kick this one off for a little bit?
Yeah, sure. It's not like, I think if some of you are already familiar with the work Fulco have been doing behind the scene, or if you don't know Fulco, well, it's more or less my alter ego on the developer grant program. So what are we doing on our side with the Community Awards program? We are there on Discord for whoever applies to get like an award, and for whoever has questions about like if the application is going well, wants a little bit of support regarding milestones, want support regarding writing documentation or things like that. What we're gonna start in the next few weeks is gonna be office hours. So I'm gonna be on as a first person at least twice a day on different time zones to be able to reach out to everyone. So if you have any question, we can connect on there. So that would be something we're gonna do, and then we are present wherever present on Reddit, and on Twitter. So if you want to reach out also on those channels, it's totally fine to us. Whoever applies obviously as a channel of communication with us, that is through emails, and obviously any question that comes through there, it's also like responded as well, I think in between 1 and 5 days, depending on obviously on the amount of questions we have, and also the amount of support you request. And I think like as we go on and as the Community Award program develops and becomes bigger, what's going to happen is that we're going to streamline this process even more. And I think there's going to be space also for the community itself to expand and give help to each other. And that's what we hope, I think, on our side as well. What I'm going to like add on top of this is just show you a little bit of the numbers that are happening since November, the start of the program. We had like 79 applications to date, and at the moment we have awarded like 33 of the projects that have been presented to us. 21 of those are already in progress, and some of those have already been added in the last few hours. And we committed 755K of total funding. So as you probably imagine, like if the project is as Mike, Matthias, and Anna have said, it's well reasoned. There are applicable metrics and milestones, and everything is going in order. Like, we're more than happy to go forward and keep funding the project and keep getting it bigger and bigger, because we really believe in what it's getting in the pipeline. And yeah, as per like in the next few weeks, I'm gonna be there also to support these projects that I've already started. So please, if you have any question, feel free to come to me on Discord. I'm not there 24/7, but when I'm there, I would be happy to respond to you. I'm giving back the word to Mike, that it's gonna close this with a little bit of what we are missing on, what we want to see, and how to influence the program.
Yeah, quite a few things that I'd love to kind of chat upon here. And I think before I just move on to what we'd like to see more of as far as applications go, I wanted to go back very quickly to the conversation of support, because I think this is a really exciting conversation and opportunity. We're already starting to learn a lot about the needs of different community members as we accept new projects and proposals into the program. And we are going to continue to build out the resources that we have for individuals once they are onboarded. And of course, some of this work will even make its way out into just the general public for those who aren't, accepted into the Community Awards program. So for example, tactically, we see requests for things as simple as, branding guidelines, access to sample decks, access to logos and assets. So individuals can get out there and, put together their own presentations on the internet computer and hold their own meetups. So of course, we'll be getting together some of those basics, but we also, get requests around just almost explain like on 5-style content, right? That makes it easier for individuals who want to go out and share more about the internet computer, but do it in a way that resonates a bit more with the ecosystems with which they work with the most. We want to be able to support that too. So over the next couple of weeks, we are going to be working to compile more resources that really just kind of dive into some of the basics around the internet computer. And our intention is to put together a portal specifically for members of the community that are accepted into the Community Awards program to access this information. So in addition to some of that basics information, you'll find all of the other basic items, kind of access to the Discord channel where you can connect with any of us that are on kind of the Community Awards kind of review team. Also to ask questions and, get help where you may need it around some of the specifics to your project, across even just the people that are on this call today. There are a number of different competencies and things that we all have experience in doing, from the product marketing side and community building and event organizing and budgeting. So we encourage, members who are accepted in the program to reach out, as they do need help and have questions on some of this front or on some of these items. But also, as Giulia mentioned, I'm very excited, and we're already seeing it, for the cross promotional opportunities between different community members. There's already a number of collaborations happening in the ecosystem that I'm sure some of you have already begun to see, and I imagine that we'll see more and more of that as others connect with each other on the Community Awards Discord. And of course, as we start finding a bit more information and success around which of these resources and tools are actually helping people the most in their ability to communicate all things internet computer, hopefully we can start rolling some of this information out for just the broader public as well in the forms of decks and one-pages, tutorial videos, things along these lines as well. Because trust me, we completely emphasize and understand that, there's a lot to discuss when it comes to the internet computer ecosystem, the technology, the potential of Web3 projects and DApps. So we really want to try and provide as many resources as possible to make that easier for people to communicate when they're going out into the world and working on these different community projects that are focused around spreading the word and evangelizing and community building. So with that, what are we missing out on? We've been seeing a lot of really great applications come through from across a number of different verticals. But I want to call attention to one or two specifically that I think, offer, really great opportunities. And we may have touched upon one of them, just a little bit, actually maybe both of them a little bit earlier. So the first is education. We've probably funded to date maybe around 5 to 7 education-focused projects, and I am of the mindset that more is better. And realistically, there are so many people out there that all learn and consume information in different ways. Some of the projects that we've chosen to fund today have focused on doing things in kind of a more standard fashion, with maybe written tutorials and documented, activities. Some people are choosing to incorporate, kind of learn to earn style elements, which is also very exciting. And some are choosing to really focus on things like video, YouTube tutorials, Twitch tutorials, videos for TikTok. And I think all ideas are welcome on this front, because there's a lot that, again, we can discuss about the internet computer ecosystem. And there's going to be different things that resonate with different people out there that are interested in learning more about what is happening here. So I encourage, those of you that are watching this video who believe they have a good hold on even some portion of the activities that are happening within the ecosystem, the technology, and what it can mean for the next wave of decentralized applications and DAOs and different projects that can be built on the internet computer ecosystem, to think about, really taking a look at that education vertical, and finding a way to share more about the work that you are doing in your own personal knowledge with, the broader community, yes, but also people outside of the internet computer ecosystem as well. So that's one bucket, education. I encourage people to really think hard about that one and take a look at it. The second that I'm really excited about, and again, we funded a few of these types of projects, but I would love to see more come through, are regional specific groups. I believe one of the ones that I'm really excited to continue working with and see how they progress is some of the activities that are happening with the DFINITY Espanol team. And for many different regions out there, there are blockchain enthusiasts and people that are excited about the promise of Web3, but realistically, for us to get out into all of these different regions and share more about what is happening and make sure that people get access to these opportunities early, that's going to take the entire ecosystem, and that's going to be a big community lift. So to this, point, I would love to see more individuals and teams, coming together to figure out, how we can, engage with their ecosystem and the community within their region and share more about the work that's happening within the internet computer ecosystem. So if you are from a region in which you, would like to see more happening from, within the internet computer ecosystem, and you'd like to see more events and more people building and more partnerships, I would absolutely consider, maybe trying to find others, or maybe kind of taking the lead yourself, and thinking through what an application could look like for developing one of these, regional specific groups and what your offering might be. Maybe it's as simple as, holding occasional events and meetups, but maybe you might want to go down the path of translation of documents, both technical and non-technical. There's a really great opportunity to translate some of the content that's coming out of some of the editorial focused outlets within the ecosystem. Not sure if anyone from ICP Squad is on the call, but I think that's a really great place to start. There's really wonderful content coming out of that engine. And I think there's a lot of opportunity to ensure that that content gets translated and becomes available for people who are speaking different languages, outside of the English, where the primary of our content is actually done. I think the same could be said for a lot of the great content that's coming out of the Internet Computer Review Medium page. And I do know that actually there is another project, I believe, that's focused on the Russian community that was also funded just a couple of days ago. So as more and more individuals start to kind of think through, what they would like their offering to be and how they'd like to support members of the community within these regions, absolutely please do consider applying for this program, because I think it would be, you'd be well suited for this. And I think this is exactly where we would like to deploy a good amount of this type of funding. So beyond that, I think I will start wrapping up with just, the last few points on, how to influence the program. And again, all of us are pretty easy to find, whether it's on Twitter or by email, Discord, developer Discord, developer forum. We're kind of all over the place these days. So, if you're just in the community, and even if you aren't applying for a community grant, let us know what you're seeing, and if there are groups that you are excited about, if there are things that you would like to see us funding more of. I think that there's a really great opportunity here for discourse with the community, because at the end of the day, we've created this program to help individuals out there evangelize on behalf of the ecosystem. And, there's going to be a number of really great ideas out there that are going to be really impactful and meaningful for our ecosystem that aren't going to be started by us here at the DFINITY Foundation. So I think to the extent that, you can be vocal about things that you would like to see, or maybe inspire others to apply for the program, I think that's how we're going to get the best result out of this. But in the meantime, I'm excited for, the influx of applications that we've received thus far. I'm excited for additional applications I know we're going to receive in the future. I'm going to keep funding these, and we're going to find some really exciting moments in time, whether it's upcoming large hackathons or large ecosystem developer conferences, to get all of these people together so more of the community can meet each other, hopefully find some really great ways to collaborate and form some meaningful partnerships. And we'll keep growing and keep going from there. So with that, I think that is all we had today for kind of just more structured format. But, for everyone that's on, more than happy to answer questions. Maybe there were specific portions about, the Community Awards program or the application process or the verticals that you'd like to just kind of revisit. So happy to kind of open up the floor for questions or thoughts. And maybe there were some questions that popped up, along the way, Liz, in the chat that we could go back to too.
Yeah, I actually have a ton of questions that I've noted down. So I hope you're ready for this, Michael and team, and thanks everyone in the audience for asking your questions. So first question here is, can you apply for both the community and developer grants programs simultaneously?
So the short answer is yes. The longer answer is maybe. So one of the things that, we've really been trying to focus on with the two grants side by side is trying to ensure that, for the most part, we have one grant per team that's active at a time. So there's absolutely a world in which, you might be able to apply for, say, a community grant first or a developer grant first, however you'd like to focus on that. And then, kind of start working through your actual grant and maybe meet, a couple of milestones or two. But then, of course, down the line, you might choose to focus on a slightly different element of, your vision and your work. And for that reason, apply to a separate grant. What we don't necessarily encourage is applying for both the community grants program and the developer grants program with the exact same application, because realistically, the application is probably going to be better suited for one or the other. However, if I'm a developer and I've worked on something and created perhaps, an application, or sorry, a DApp or some other type of platform tooling program, and, I'm making progress on that, but now I want to really think through, well, how do I leverage the work that I've already done and utilize that to do more on the community building and evangelizing side? You could absolutely then come back and apply for a community grants award too.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. So next question. Did someone have something to add to that, or? Okay, maybe I just misheard. So next question, would you say that creating developer documentation and more broadly nurturing an open developer community around your project would be a good candidate for this program?
I can take this one. I think the short answer is absolutely. I think if there's already, looking at the grant category, especially around educational materials, and looking around organizing, there's kind of an overlap, but also, it's a clear fit for educational, right? You've already built out something, there's a clear example. If you want to create tutorials or, certain documentation that revolves around that resonates with your community or your subsection, whether it's a gaming or whatever it might be, all of that is absolutely welcome. And I think there's also been a question that's kind of been floating around as though, or maybe is there wanton for us to accept projects that have already been doing work? Absolutely. If you've already done a groundwork of building community or building a DApp, we certainly want you to apply. This is not only for net new projects that are just being thought up. In fact, we actually will prioritize projects that have shown a lot of the groundwork that's already been built. Well, I think that maybe where there's a misunderstanding potentially in some of the Q&As, that we are not looking to fund activities that have already occurred. This is not funding for the work that you've already done. However, if you've already done the work of building a community, we want to help supercharge that. So yes, if you've already done that work to build something, please do apply. But also, yeah, more specifically to that question, yeah, great candidate.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to sum it up. I think ultimately we just want to ensure that, your application is still forward looking, right? You're chatting a little bit more about what comes next for your project and your community. And that is shown, through the outcomes and the milestones that you share with us within your application. But beyond that, absolutely, you would still qualify, even if the work, even if you've already done a bit of work in building out that community and that ecosystem.
Awesome. So next question, is starting with a grant a potentially good way to get some visibility with respected VC teams? Our potential project is rather daunting and complex, so eventually we will need more money.
Yeah, I can take this one quick. I think there's never a negative from saying that you've been awarded a grant by anyone, especially, if you feel that the foundation is relevant to what you are working on. So if you're working on a Web3 project and you've got backing and support from someone like the DFINITY Foundation, that's certainly something that you can take to community and or investors or the community at large to invest and say, hey, look, we've gotten a rubber stamp of approval that what we're looking at is, deemed interesting and helpful to the community by the foundation. Now, will that ensure that you get funding? Absolutely not. No, that's not something that we're saying. We're not saying, hey, come here to try and get investor funding. That's also not the point of this program, right? It's pretty easy to sniff out if there's just like an attempt to get funding to get, the project off the ground. Again, this is really for things that have shown, interest, development, building community. We want to help scale that and supercharge it. And yeah, it never hurts to have the seal of approval of a grant, especially from a not-for-profit like the DFINITY Foundation and or whomever else can, just help kind of, elevate the standing. And again, we do, help projects with communication and support on that front. And you can see in the ecosystem that, teams will announce when they receive funding, and, it's a great moment to kind of be able to, celebrate as well for the project. And it's a good motivation as well to say, hey, what we're working on is really interesting to some people. So yeah, I'll inject.
Awesome. Thank you, Maddie. Go ahead, Michael.
Oh yeah, just one last quick point on that front. So, as it relates to the complexity of that project too, I just wanted to make sure that we talked about that part too. Absolutely, make sure that if you are interested in applying for, an award, you also take a look, compare and contrast with the developer grants program as well, if the nature of this application is a bit more technical. One of the things that we really want to make sure that people, get out of their time in one of the programs, either the Community Awards program or the Developer Grants program, is access to support and resources, and being plugged a little bit deeper in with all of the other really wonderful developers and people who are building out applications and tooling infrastructure, I think is just as valuable as getting plugged into the DFINITY team. And I think the same goes for those who are applying for the Community Awards program. Being plugged into all of the individuals who are trying to do things in their separate regions and in their separate competencies is just an incredibly valuable portion of this as well. So make sure you kind of do a little bit of thinking on that front too, as you're putting together or thinking through putting together your application.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. So a question from the community. I am beginning an IC project, but I will not be working on it full time because I am too busy. Are part-time projects eligible for a grant?
Yes.
I can try and take this. I would say more than yes, because I think what happens in the beginning is we discuss the milestones with you. So the milestones you present are obviously like targeted on the time you have and the things you can work on, and obviously can be redirected as more as we see like you reach those milestones, and then we can rediscuss them and see what are the points you can reach. So I suppose like everything it's applicable, and we can talk together if something can be reached in 3 or 6 months actually, and how much time you can actually dedicate to the project.
Cool. Thank you, Julia. All right. So I know we only have 5 minutes left. We do have a lot of questions, so I'm trying to see what questions have come up the most. Let's see. What is the highest amount I could receive from the Community Awards program?
You're unmuted, Anna. Did you want to take this one, or I'm more than happy to?
Yeah, I mean, I believe it's 100,000.
Okay, and are there any exceptions that could come about? Let's say something is like sustained and long-term. Can people qualify for more than $100,000 in grants?
Yeah, so honestly, this is something that, we are actively taking a look at. And in fact, I know there are already some examples from the sister program, the Developer of Grants program, where there are some projects that have already been able to, show some level of success with their initial grant and have come back for, larger follow-up amounts of funding. So I imagine that we'll probably be running something similar as far as, the way we're thinking about this to the Community Awards program, where at the onset, we probably will cap most of the applications and awards at that 100K mark. But, for projects and programs that are finding, amazing levels of success, and realistically for them to keep doing the great work that they're doing, they might need to come back for follow-up funding. I think perhaps we'll be open to those conversations. I think it really just depends on the nature of the project, the level of success that they're finding and the work that they're doing. But for, kind of that initial engagement and that initial application, about 100K is where the grants are currently capped.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. So a question, let's say that I want to start some kind of creative project. Maybe it's like an NFT project or something like artistic in that direction. Like what is like the minimum viable amount of work that I'd have to show to be able to qualify for a community grant?
I think I can go for this. Well, usually what do we request is to know a little bit about the background you're coming from. So what the projects you've already done, which type of artistic endeavor you met in your past, what type of network you have, in the sense of you collaborated with other artists, you collaborated in art galleries, if you already did digital art, what type of digital art you did, if you digitalized any type of traditional art, and which type of media you use. And so all of these things are usually really interesting to us, because from there we can see what could be the impact that your art and your project, the things you want to do, are going to happen on the internet computer, and we can actually see if there is a future for this thing going on. Obviously, we don't want a project that starts and finishes. We want something that can grow, because when something comes in, we believe that projects could actually potentially go on forever. So what we would like to see would be something that you already maybe started and you think about developing and making evolve in the internet computer, or something that you're thinking for the internet computer, something that you're thinking for the ecosystem, and can actually live on and go much further. So yeah, a portfolio, your background, the type of artistic idea you have, and then I think we can talk about milestones and about many other things together.
Great, thank you, Julia. So I know we're coming up on time, so just wanted to give a big thank you to Michael Hunt, Julia Guizzardi, Anna, and Maddie for your wonderful presentation here today. And thanks for everyone from the community and also from DFINITY for tuning in. If you have any questions, you can find us on Twitter. I can drop my handle here, it's WizWing. I can field the questions to everybody else who's on this call, and looking forward to seeing you at a future community conversation. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.